So I got a forwarded post from Bonnie Dwell, who sent me this thing about Andrew Womack. Did you guys see this? No? Okay. Did you see that post? Andrew Womack went out yesterday, and he sent out a 4th of July celebration thing. And then he comes back on and puts another 6-paragraph thing on there, which I'm not going to read to you because it's 6 paragraphs, and I suck at reading. And I don't have any deflection in my voice when I read. I'm very monotone, and I stop, and I'm like, and then I'm trying to read one word, and I'm like, what is this word? Due diligence. Got it. I've heard of that one before. And so I just don't read out loud, okay? I read to myself. It takes me 5 minutes to read one paragraph. Who cares? I get it done, and I remember it, right? That's how I do it. But I was reading this post from Andrew, and he got a cease and desist order from the Colorado State Attorney's Office for his family camp ministry conference thing that he had from June 29th through July 3rd. And they sent him a cease and desist order. And what was it, back in March or April or May, I can't remember which one it was, he had his ministries conference who had over 500 people at it and no problems. But in his little post, he talks about how that they did everything they possibly could to comply with the city of Woodland Park to do all the social distancing, to do all the different stuff that they're supposed to be doing. And the only thing he didn't comply with was the don't have anything, or do not exceed the 175 person at the meeting. He goes, well, if they can do the protests and walk in numbers of thousands, then I can do my meeting over 175. And so he did. He had 1,000 people show up at his conference, and they sent him a cease and desist order. And what's awesome is he didn't stop. Yeah. Do you know why? Somebody tell me why. Somebody tell me why. Online. Somebody tell me why. Anybody? Tell me why he didn't stop. Why wouldn't you stop? Yeah, why would you not stop?
They're protesting me. I'm free to do whatever.
Absolutely. 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 Who gave us the freedoms? No, it didn't. The governor, no. The governor gave it, no. The governor tries to take them away, but he can't. And I'll show you why a little later on. But the freedoms that we have, the freedom to breathe, the freedom to speak, the freedom to walk, the freedom to move about, the freedom to do what we want to do when we want to do it, as long as we're not encroaching on somebody else's rights or freedoms, that is our godly right. God built us to be free. I don't care what country you live in, God built you to be free, period. That is what God built you as a free person. I don't care if you work for, say you sign a contract with somebody, right? You go to work, you sign a contract with this company, like the people that work for me, they sign a verbal contract that says, hey, I'm going to come to work every day. I'm going to do my job, whatever you ask me to do, and then you're going to pay me. That's the contract, right? And if I'm going to pay you, that means you get to do the stuff that I tell you and that needs to be done, and you're going to do it with a good attitude or without a good attitude. Either way, I'm going to still pay you because you get the work done because I can't afford to lose you right now. So that's just how it goes. But if you sign a contract, the contract binds you to the person in which you're under that contract with. You have a mortgage on your home. You are legally bound to pay your mortgage. Otherwise, what happens? They take your house away, right? So if you sign a contract, that contract binds you to that other person or entity, correct? So when it comes to our freedoms, the only way to have your freedoms taken away from you is for you to give them away. Have you guys ever gone on your apps? So, like on Android, I'm not sure about Apple, but if you go on Android, you push and hold your icon, say like your Facebook or your Google app or whatever else. You push the icon, hold it, and it'll pop up a little thing, and you hit the little information app thing on it, and it brings up all the back-end stuff on your app, all your permissions, all the software information, all that stuff. Well, if you go to your permissions, you can see all the different permissions you automatically gave that app to have on your phone. and I'm trying to remember what it was. It was a really insignificant app that I had. I think it might have been my banking. No, it was a Google Play Store. The Google Play Store had permissions, and the Google Play Store is just where I go and buy apps or download apps. So it doesn't need anything but my email account and my login information. That's all it needs. Well, on there it had permissions just automatically for my camera, my microphone, my photos, my text messages, everything on my call log. Why does my Play Store need information for my call log? So I go in there and I undo my Play Store. I'm like, nope. That doesn't need my location. I just need you to tell me or show me what you have available in your store, and I will then purchase it or I will download it if it's free. That's it, right? That's the point of the Apple Play Store. Or not the Apple Play Store. That's what you guys do, is Apple Play Store. I do the Google Play Store. But on that thing, it blew my mind as far as how many permissions I gave away without even knowing it. So right now, go on your Google Play Store, take a look and see what permissions you absolutely get. That's right, give it to Courtney, she'll fix it for you. But see how much permissions you actually give away. You give for something that's insignificant as far as absolutely needing permissions, has my permission because I downloaded that app. And of course, you're going to say yes to anything you download, because if you don't say yes, they're going to say no, and you don't get that application, right? So therefore, you have to give away permissions to download something on your phone or your tablet or your computer or anything along these lines. However, the nice thing is you can go back into that thing and remove those permissions once you got it downloaded. Does that make sense? All right, so this is Techie 101, apparently. Apple gives you the option to approve everything. So does Google, except for, or the Google Play Store, except for it just says, do you want this, yes or no? And you say yes, and then it's game over. Yeah. Oh, does it go through all of them? Cool. Well, Apple's a little bit better. Well, Google Play Store, you're just done. I know, I don't like Apple, but that's a good part about Apple. I'll admit it. That's good. So, but anyway, you look at it and you gave them away, but yet you can go back at any time and remove the ones that you don't want to have permission to. Like for my text messaging, it needs permission to my contacts, and it needs permission to my photos, and it needs permission to my mic, because that's how I use that specific application, right? So I give the freedoms for it to have on my phone. I give away my freedoms for it to utilize them to benefit me at this point. But the point is this: no matter what, your freedom is your freedom. Your choices are your choices. That's what freedom actually is. You have the freedom to choose. If you choose to give something away, then you don't have that freedom anymore. But the nice thing is, if it's not working out for you, you can always go back and take it back, because it's still whose freedom? Your freedom, right? Period. That's how that works. So we live in a very funky world where we give away freedoms and we don't give. Like if you want to drive your vehicle, you enter into a contract with the Department of Transportation that says, yes, I am going to drive on this road and obey the laws under the administrational laws of the court of this state of Colorado. That's why they can pull you over, because you got a driver's license. And I'm a citizen based on my birth certificate. That's the contract that I have with the state, that I have a birth certificate and I get my driver's license. So now the state has jurisdiction over me as a quote-unquote citizen of the state and a citizen of the United States. That's how that works. Does that make sense? We're going to get to God here in a little bit. Just hang with me, okay? I promise. This is good stuff. But your freedoms are one of the only things that you have that you don't have to earn. You don't have to earn it. It is yours, period. It is something that you walk into the moment that you're born. And it's your choice from that point on if you want to keep it or give it away. Depends on what you're trying to accomplish. If you want to get into a job and a career that works great for you, then yeah, you're going to have to sign that contract to give away some freedoms to your employer. That's just how that goes. Right? That's part of the deal. But I'll tell you what, it's still your freedom. And you can quit that job anytime you want to and go do something different. You guys understand what I'm saying? Okay, good. So in my business, we work with a lot of governing authorities, as most of you guys do in your businesses. One of our things is we work with the departments of health in all 4 surrounding counties around here: Jefferson County, Park County, Gilpin County, Clear Creek County, a little bit in Tri-County. But we work with all the environmental health districts and county governing bodies. And my brother and I, we have a septic and sewer service company and a trash company. And so our business is to take care of people's waste. It's kind of gross, but it pays the bills, and it's a good service, and everybody needs it, which makes us very essential no matter what we do, no matter what comes around. You know, poo's got to flow downhill, and trash has got to get picked up. That is the lovely thing about what we do, right? Your business is my business. Your number one is my number two. No, never mind. Your number two is my number one. Whatever. No matter what. Your poo is my bread and butter, baby. That's just how that goes. That's just how that goes. So anyway, so we work with these environmental health. And the whole point of the environmental health is to help protect the water. Not anything with the waste. Our job is to, in the environmental health, is to protect the drinking water, the groundwater, the reusable water. Everything is recycled. If you're drinking water in the city, you're drinking water out of the plastic bottle, you're drinking water from your tap in the mountains off a well, it's all been recycled from somewhere. No matter what, all your water is recycled. So in our business, we are in the business to help protect the environment with drinking water, right? That's how it works. Is that this microphone just not getting wind blown on it? The fans? Okay. I can talk like this the whole time. No. Move the mic up. Okay. Right there. A little further up. Okay. All the way. There's a button there. How about that? I don't know. Maybe if we turn that fan off. Maybe. I don't know. So I'm not sure which one it is, Joe. Anyway, so where was that? Oh, yeah. So this is what they do. So their job is to, they call it regulation compliance is their job. So they write all these regulations and laws for the use or the reclaiming of water through sewage disposal, and that's our job, is to help out with that. Well, my brother and I's business is to protect, yes, the water, but more than anything else, is to help the people. Because who pays for the systems whenever they go bad? The people, the landowners, you know, the people that own the system, the people that are using the system. So it's, yes, the end goal is about the water, but the beginning goal is about people. And it's about helping people know how to treat a septic system, know how to dispose of their wastewater appropriately, and to know how to do all these things, right? Well, what we're finding as the days go on, that the younger generations and the health departments are coming in, the older generations are moving out. And the problem that we're having with that is what I call government overreach, okay? And this is not about politics. Hang with me. Don't hang up. Just hang with me. It's not about politics. I'm going to lay out a foundation, and we're going to land somewhere very, very solid and very, very near and dear to my heart, because to me, it is the most important thing in the world where we're going to land, okay? So just hang with me. A lot about governments today, but it's important to know. You guys okay with that? Okay. So we call government overreach. So we have one specific county that is completely hurting people. Actually, I have 2 counties right now that are hurting people. So if you want to go sell your home, you have to bring your system into a minimum compliance. And a lot of times that minimum compliance is having to upgrade your system by tens of thousands of dollars. And there's no proof or evidence that says that they need to upgrade their system, because there's no proof that says that their system is polluting the water, but their rules say in order to do this, if it doesn't meet this specific compliance, it has to be upgraded, and most time it's anywhere from $8,000 to $25,000 to do it. And they can't prove that it's actually hurting anything. They just say, this is how it is, so therefore this is what you have to do. No such thing as grandfather laws, period. Never has been. It's just, we can talk about that later. But what's going on is they're hurting people. So I called my attorney, And my attorney called the county attorney. And my attorney talked to me twice and then fell off the grid. The county attorney and my attorney came to some agreement, and I don't know what happened. Nothing changed, nothing happened other than my attorney stopped talking to me about that specific issue. He just said, let it go. Okay? You guys know much about the history of the world, history of America? You know about slave trades and how Christopher Columbus came in here and how cities and countries were developed? Anybody? You guys ever listen to it all? And it's amazing if you really watch it. I mean, if you really think about it, even just the stuff that you do know, like stuff about like Napoleon and Cortez and Christopher Columbus and how they come through and they just destroy everybody that comes through, right? So the history of America, the way that it's been told to me, and I wasn't there, so I don't know this for a fact. The person that told it to me wasn't there, but they were reading it from documents and letters from the past, okay? So the information I'm getting, and this is really, really short and concise, but whenever Christopher Columbus came over and found the Americas and all this different stuff, and then Cortez came in and found Mexico and destroyed all the Indians, I'll tell you what, every single country in this world, there was slavery, there was racism, there was murder, there was brutal killings for absolutely nothing other than they could, because the weak will not survive and the strong will. And the other golden rule is that the one that has the money will make the rules. That is always the truth, even to this point. You want to know why I can't become president? Because I don't have the money. I can't even have a shot at it because I don't have the money. If you think about all the politicians that are in government today, how much money do they have to have earned or had to have fundraised before they can move on to the next step, before they're even looked at to be the candidate for that specific office? I don't care if you're Democrat or Republican, doesn't matter. It's all about the money, right? You go back in time. How many guys have watched, what's that movie called? Way Old, and then they try to get rid of it. Gone with the Wind. Thank you. You can read my mind, brother. I love it. How many guys watched Gone with the Wind? How many guys watched Sound of Music? Right? How many guys watched West Side Story? They're all the same. They're all the same. They're all about different people coming after different people, but no matter what, the upper class of people, the people with the money, make the rules. If you go back in time, the information I was given is that the slave trades started happening right around the 1500s, 1600s in America. They started bringing slaves over. By the time you get to 1700s, almost 40% of the population in New York City, Baltimore, and Philadelphia were blacks. And they were slaves. There's very few free blacks in that time and place. If you go back and keep looking, 1/3 of all the blacks that were taken from Africa died or made it to America. 2/3 died on the way here or when they got here. They estimate that there's 8 million blacks in America by the time that the Constitution or even the Declaration of Independence was written. 8 million blacks here, which means that there was what? We're going to do the math real quick. 3 times 8. 24? Yeah. 24 million blacks were kidnapped, estimated, out of Africa. And the majority of them were taken from the interior, and they had to walk with chains around their necks down with the slave traders to the ocean to get thrown onto slave ships. And then a lot of them would try to commit suicide. They try to choke themselves out because it's going to be way better than where they're going. The rule was to break up families. The rule was if you want a compliant slave, you have to break up families. You cannot have the men and women relate, no babies. And if you were going to have a baby from a black or a slave, and don't get me wrong, there was a lot of white slaves as well, but if you're going to do it, it had to be somebody completely unrelated to them. That way they can make more slaves. The majority of the blacks that were sold to the Dutch and English and Spanish slave traders were black tribes going into different tribes and taking those slaves, taking them down and selling them off. Absolutely horrible. You go back in the history in the time of Jesus. The Israelites were slaves. Go back even further than that, into Egypt. The Israelites were slaves, white slaves, or whatever color they were slaves. Slavery's been around since forever. It's not right, completely wrong, completely encroaching on the liberties and freedoms of an individual that God gave them, but they're forced and bent into a specific will. I'll tell you what, America is a great country regardless of our beginnings. Our beginnings, if you look at what Christopher Columbus did to the Indians, oh my gosh, it blew my mind. The Indians in Peru, it blew my mind, the information I was getting from this. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And then you think about Cortez and how he came in and took out the Incas, and it's like just destroyed them. There was not a race around anymore. They couldn't enslave the Indians. They tried to, but the Indians still had enough family around them that they were not compliant. So they couldn't enslave the natural people on the land, so they ended up bringing in new slaves, white slaves, black slaves, and even the slaves that nobody ever talks about, the Chinese slaves, Oriental slaves, right? A lot of those guys. I've seen it in the movie Shanghai Noon. You guys ever seen that movie? It's a great movie. He talks about slavery all day long. It's good stuff. Not the slavery, but the movie is good. It's got Jackie Chan and Owen Wilson. Thank you. Funny movie. Especially whenever Owen Wilson's buried up to his neck in sand, and Jackie Chan gives him a what's it called? Chopstick, and he's digging himself out. I'll just say. Absolutely hilarious. Did you guys know that God never wanted his people to be governed by people? Did you guys know that? It's in the Bible, right here. When the Israelites, it's in 1 Samuel 10. The Israelites were asking, actually 8, 9, and 10. The Israelites were asking Samuel, who was the prophet of the time, and asking him, hey, listen, Samuel, you're getting old. It's time for us to have a king like all the other nations that can judge us. And so he goes away. Samuel's not feeling right about this, so he goes away and he talks to God and says, God, these people want a king. I don't think it's right. And God's like, it's not right, but you give them what they want because they've already turned their back on me. They're not turning their back on you, Samuel. They're turning their back on me. So give them what they want. But before you do, warn them. Tell them what a king is going to do for you. And so he goes back to the elders and the leaders, and he says, this is what a king is going to do for you. He's going to take your children. He's going to take your men and put them in his slaves. He's going to take 10% of all your goods, livestock, grain, everything. He's going to take all these different things from you and then judge you and then sit on a throne high above. And eventually you're going to hate everything about it, and you're going to try to get rid of them, but you can't because it's done. So God says, don't get a king. Let me be the king. Let me be the ruler of your life. Be the ruler of your people. Let me do it. That's what I'm here for. And they said, no, thank you. We like a king. And so they did. They got the very first king, Saul, who was the most handsome man in the land, is what the Bible says. He stood head and shoulders over everybody. If you read 1 Samuel, you'll see how that story goes. Take a look at it. It's absolutely crazy. Everything that God predicted came true. Whenever you put a man over top of other people, their selfish ambitions are going to come into play, and you're not going to win. You're just not going to win. Everything about dictatorships, governments, I don't care if it's a republic or a democracy, is about controlling the population. Did you guys know that the population moves God? It says it all over the Bible. The population moves God. There's a flood back in Genesis that wiped out the population. Why? Because the entire population, other than a few, were ungodly. So God's like, forget this. I should have never built these people. This is my fault. Where there's a problem, there's a leadership problem. I'm going to take care of this problem. So he wipes them all out. Why? Because of the choices of man. Right? And then you get through the flood, and next thing you know, you're at the Tower of Babel, where they're building this tower to the heavens, and they want to be God and be like God. And God's like, nah, you can't do this. So they changed God's plan again, and next thing you know, now we've got multiple languages. You can keep going through the Bible and see how the multitudes changed the plans of God. Jesus died on the cross because man changed the plans of God. But the nice thing is now, because Jesus, what Jesus did on that cross and raised him from the grave, God's plans can never be changed again. It is solid now. Nobody can change God's plans again. However, we can change our world that God's put us in and set us up in a perfect little way. Does that make sense? When we're talking about governments, it's absolutely amazing to me how predictable it could be. Back in 1964, Ronald Reagan, before he was president, was talking to a congressional somebody or a group of people, and what he said is happening right now. Back in 64. Why? Because nothing's changed. It's the same people doing the same thing with the same agenda. Now listen, again, this is not Republican, Democrat. This is not about politics. This is about people. Let me tell you a story. Last night I was sleeping very sound Amy and I were sleeping very sound in our bed, and my dog, his name is Bear, he's got this very aggressive bark. It is like scary aggressive when you're awake. When you're sleeping and it comes up, oh my gosh. You wake up and you wake up with a start and your feet at the ground, because this dog only barks when there's something going on. Okay? The last time he barked, a bear got into my chicken coop and he got into my freezer and destroyed my freezer and took my DiGiorno's pizza out of my freezer. I know. Of all the things, I had this, I got hundreds of pounds of beef in this freezer, and he takes the DiGiorno pizza. And he goes up right behind, just to mock me, he goes up right behind, maybe 50 feet behind me on the hill, and eats the pizza, leaves the box, doesn't even clean up after himself, and just eats the pizza. Well, this morning, we get woken up by this, I mean, it's just like that, except for deeper and louder and more intense. And it's, I'm like, oh my God. Oh my gosh, I should have some water now. Or coffee. Anyway, he barks real loud, and I jump out of bed, and I go running outside of my underwear with a flashlight. And he's at the window. My window's cracked a little bit. He's got his nose in the window, barking, sniffing. Something's outside. So I take him outside, and I never take him outside with me, because I know he's going to chase something and maybe get hit by a porcupine or something like that. But I took him outside and let him go. And he just took off up the mountain, man. And you can hear all around like this. That's pretty good. That's actually pretty good. Oh, now I'm crying. And he just goes all around this here, and I whistle for him, and he comes right back, which I love about this dog. He always comes back. He came back, went inside, laid down. That was at 4:30 this morning. What? 4:30? He's like, I was sleeping. At 4:30 this morning. And I'm like, okay, cool. Next thing I know, I wake up again closer to 6 o'clock, and now there's crows going. I'm like, oh my gosh. The dog keeps barking at least every 30 minutes. There's something outside. And I couldn't see with my flashlight, so I'm like, whatever it is, it is. I can't fix it now, so, whatever. Stop it, Bear, shut up, and go to sleep. And then we start waking up, the sun's coming up, and you hear the crows, and they're just going nuts outside. And so I'm getting ready to come to church, and I go to my truck, and this is what I find. I'm not sure if you can see it on Facebook, on YouTube, but this is what I find. It's my chicken coop. Again, 5 years later, that portion that you see with the board hanging like that used to be the wall that the door connected to. The bear went in there and ripped the entire door off. Well, at least it's on the hinge. Last time he ripped it off on the hinge side. This time he ripped it off on the latch side. Apparently he's learning. But he ripped the entire wall off. I had 5 chickens. Now we're down to 2. And you can't really see it, but in the very back corner, there's like a little dark spot back right-hand corner of that thing. There's a dark thing. There's a chicken in there laying on eggs. Still alive. The red one here, red one right in front, that's a dead chicken. And there's another chicken out in the pen. We had 3 chickens missing today. Headline, racist bear takes out chickens for mocking the bear. So the bear went on a riot and destroyed my chicken coop. What's the truth? The bear was hungry, or the bear is whatever, and decided to go in there, right? But the headlines are going to basically tell you that the chickens were racist, or the bear was racist, probably because the chickens would be racist because it's a black bear, and the black bear had enough, because black bear lives matter, and so he went through there, and instead of protesting properly, he decided to riot and destroy my chicken coop, and in the process, kill 2 innocent hens, because the one that's going to be mocking them is going to be the rooster that was Afro. That was his name. He had a stupid poof on his head with no tail because he was an absolute jerk. And so I'm guessing that Afro was the one that mocked him, but you got the innocent bystanders that got knocked out by this rioting bear. And then, of course, you had the looters that come behind, like the foxes that come through, and they take away the other 2 chickens. That doesn't sound too far-fetched, does it? To what's actually happening? I'll tell you what, it's not too far-fetched. Here's my point, guys. Here's my point, okay? Out of everything that I'm saying so far, here's my point. And it's on the very bottom thing right here. People. That's it. That's the point. People. That's the point. It doesn't matter what happened. It's done. It doesn't matter about Black Lives Matter. I'll tell you what, if you're supporting that Black Lives Matter, I'm guaranteeing you that you're blinded by the truth. Because the truth is that Black Lives Matter is not a godly thing. I'm just letting you know. Because God has no God can't see race. He sees people. If you follow and you're supporting as an organization that is going for one race over the other, that is racism. That is not looking at what is truth. That is looking at your own selfish ambition and trying to get something else done. Now, was it wrong what happened to the black folks back in the day? Absolutely. But I'll tell you what, as a white person, my great-grandfather came here from Italy. He was a poor pauper that ended up dying in a mine collapse in Trinidad. He had nothing to do with anything. And a wise man once said that I saw on Facebook, if you want to stop your encounters with the cops, stop breaking the law. Right? I mean, it's really simple. The only time I talk to the cops is when I screwed something up, or is a misunderstanding. Like speeding was too fast. I'm like, dude, you don't understand. That's not how this is going to work out. See, listen. But no, I mean, the cops, yes, there's a bad apple in every single group. I get it. That's why we pay fees at the National Forest to go to see Mount Evans, because there's a bad apple in every single group. There's a bad bear that leaves the trash on the ground. They say don't leave the trash for the bears to eat. No, the stupid bears get the trash and leave it on the ground. It's the bears that need to be getting the fines, not me, because the bears are doing this. My thoughts. Bear lives matter. Exactly right. But I'll tell you what, guys, it's not about politics. It never has been. If you keep looking at politics as your answer to different things, or your conversation piece to different things, you're looking at the wrong thing. I'm just letting you know, because it's not God. God has nothing to do with politics. He didn't want politics in the beginning. Read Samuel 10. 1 Samuel 10. He doesn't want anybody over you. Why? He's the King of Kings. He's the Lord of Lords. He is and should be your King and your Lord of Lords. He should be your governing body over your mind, your will, and your emotions. Not Black Lives Matter. Not, they're being stupid because they're rioting. Not, they're pulling down statues. Who cares? They're just dumb. People suck sometimes. Okay? I suck sometimes. But I'm telling you what, guys. I'm telling you what. God came to this earth. God changed his mind. Or changed his plan. How many covenants were there that God kept changing? I don't remember off the top of my head, but there's a lot of covenants that God made with the children of Israel. Lots of covenants. And then the final covenant was when Jesus died on the cross, rose from the grave. That's the final covenant, and that's the one that we're under now for the last 2,000 years. And what is that covenant? Let me read it to you. Here's the covenant that God put us under that so many years ago. That we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's God's will. What does unalienable mean? It means you can't take them away. You can only give them away. Tell you what, Independence Day is just the day we celebrate America giving or becoming an actual union in a republic. But I'll tell you what, man, every single day is an Independence Day. Independence from your own stupid thinking. Independence from the way that you feel about different things. Forget your feelings. Forget what your head's telling you. I'll tell you what, look at the truth. The truth is that this bear came through that thing. Not that it was on a riot. Not that it was racist or there's a racist chicken in there. That's not the truth. What is the truth? The bear is a predator and it wants something other than berries. What's that?
I've seen racist chickens.
I believe you. I believe you. Racist chickens. There's a bad apple in every group. I'll tell you what, guys. I'll tell you what. If you're not striving for people, you're not striving for God. If you're not striving for your own heart to be a better person, to get yourself aligned with God's will. And what is God's will? God's will is to love people. Period. That's what God's will is. It's not this other distractions around us. Why is the world going to hell in a handbasket? Because families are divided. Absolutely. You care about self. You care about one thing, and that's why families are divided. That's why the abortions are raising. Because families are destroyed. Families are being destroyed. That's why this world's going down. It's not because of the government, it's because of the people. You look at Facebook, and this is the plan. Keep them divided, we can conquer them all. Get them together, we can't do a doggone thing. Even God knows that. Look at Facebook. Bring it back to the beginning. Social media. Look at the news. Look at the news. What are you listening to? What are you allowing into your brain? What are you letting absorb you and consume you, or absorb into you and consume your brain and your thoughts and your feelings and your emotions? What are you doing with it? And why? Is it to love on people? Because if it's not, check yourself at the door, because that means you're not in God's will. You're not following what God wants you to do. And maybe, I'll throw this out there, maybe that's why you're having such a hard time. Because you can't get yourself out of the way and let God be God running through you. God has us here on earth for one reason, and that is to love Him. But we love Him only because He loved us first. We live through His example. Jesus said it while He's walking on the earth. He says, I do what I see my Father doing. That's why He was the perfect sacrifice, because He didn't do what His earthly father was doing. He didn't focus on the politics of the world. He bucked the politics. That's why the church wanted to kill Him, because He's bucking the church policy and He's setting people free. And He loved people so much that not only did He die, but He stood up in front of these guys and said absolutely nothing combative. He never fought them. You guys know that? He never once fought them. Now you can tell me, oh, he went into church and he whipped out all the merchants in the church. That's not fighting. That's protecting. Now I hear this a lot with all this whole COVID-19 and the world's going to hell and the end of the world's coming. And I hear this a lot. He says, put on the full armor of God. People are saying it all over the Christian stuff. Put on the full armor of God. Put it on. I'm like, thinking in my head, you should have already had it on. Right? Number one. Number two, the full armor of God is not to fight. It is all defensive. God did not call us to be in His army. He's got that. He called us to be His children, to be a part of His inheritance. to enjoy his love. The only thing that would be combative would be the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God. And how is that combative? What that does is it gives people love. Because the word of God is the gospel, and the gospel is the good news, and the good news is Jesus' love. Come on now. Come on. And that's how you change the world. You want to change this world, you change it through people. But you start it here first. If you're not starting it here, if you're not going from here to the people, then you're not doing the right thing. You're going to be just like everybody else on social media, just like the media saying that this is a racist bear or a racist chicken. Depends on which way you want to spin it. Right? I guess it depends on if the chicken was Republican or Democrat. I don't know. The bear could be, that's probably liberal. He did the destruction. No idea. Independent, constitutionalist, like, tear down this wall. You don't know. I don't know. But it can be spun any way you want. Look at that. All you see is the end product, but yet we can believe anything they tell us. I tell you what, you don't know the truth about this world. Neither do I. All we know about this world and about our government is what they tell us, or what we read, or what somebody is hypothesizing or conspiracy theorying on, or what CNN, NBC, Fox News, whatever says is the truth. But we don't know the truth. If we do know the truth about this world, then tell me. Because I'll tell you what, we don't know. Because we don't know who's pulling the strings. But what I do know is this. You don't need to know the truth about the world. You need to know the truth about God. And that's it. Listen to the God news, which is love people. It doesn't matter. Shut up on Facebook. Don't be combative. Stop it. It doesn't matter. You're not going to change their mind. You're not going to change their will. You're not going to change their feelings on anything. Just stop.
And if you don't comment, that post doesn't get seen before you comment.
Correct. There's nothing good about fighting. I had a gentleman that lived with me for a while. And no matter what I said, it never changed his mind. Ever changed his mind. I had a son the same way. Nothing changed his mind until he learned it himself. Some people gotta learn the hard way. But no matter what I said, no matter how mean I got, no matter how nice I got, no matter if I bought him a car, didn't buy him a car, no matter what happened, they're gonna go their way. So stop commenting on social media. It's not helping, it's making it worse. You're not loving on people when you tell people off. You love on people by speaking the truth, and what is truth? God's love. That's it. That is the most important thing in this world. It's not politics. It's not the happenings in this world. It is people. If you focus on loving people, caring about people, even people you don't like. We say this prayer in our house. We say, thank you, Jesus, for the food. Thank you for our dogs, our cows, safety of the people that we love and the people we don't. Why not? I don't know if I love you. I haven't met you yet. I could love you forever, dude. I have no idea. I don't know your name yet. I love you, Dirk. But that's the thing, guys, is we're going to take communion here in a little bit. And if you guys are at home, go get yourself an Oreo cookie and a glass of milk and do communion with us. Celebrate the freedoms that we have in Jesus. The life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness that we have in Jesus, not in what the world says we can and can't have. Be a contributor of God's love. Be a contributor of kindness, joy, peace, patience, love, gentleness to the world around you. And that's what communion is partaking of Jesus' body, partaking of Jesus' blood, the sacrifice that he made for us. That's all that communion is saying, listen, I got this, I got my Pepsi and my Twinkie. Whatever you want to do, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be unleavened bread and grape juice. I think this is Welch's. Maybe it's Kirkland, I don't know. But it doesn't have to be. Communion is strictly partaking in his body, partaking in his blood, and saying, I thank you for what you did to save me and to provide our freedoms. And when you take it in the remembrance, it's just a symbolism. And Jesus said, do this in remembrance of me, to say, I appreciate what you did. I love you. I want to be your kid. I am your kid, and I'm going to do everything I possibly can to follow you. So as we go and take communion, we want to have some music going. If you guys want prayer, if you guys just want to talk, if you guys just want to fall on your knees right here and just let God come through, doesn't matter. If you're at home, turn on some Christian music. Pandora, today's top 10, whatever it is. And get on your knees, stand on your feet, go outside, get your quiet place, and just let God right now absorb himself into your body and learn and see what God's love is. So as we start the music, come on up for communion, guys. And just let God's love just absorb into you, consume you.